we're going to be talking about a science fiction film called Radius. Be ready for some spoilers ahead. The main character wakes up after surviving a car accident, and he walks towards the road looking for help. He sees a car coming by and tries to get a ride, but the car drives towards him, almost hitting him. He walks towards the vehicle, and to his surprise, the driver appears to be dead. He calls the police right away, and when they ask him for his name, he fails to remember. It's only when he takes out his ID that he realizes his name is Liam. He sees another bird drop dead on the car and begins running in fear. He goes to the nearest restaurant only to see that everyone's dead as well, with the same eyes as the driver. Suspecting it may be poison in the air, he covers his mouth and runs away from the building. Liam finds his address using his driver's license and ironically has to break into his own house. While trying to seal off all the airways to the house, he sees a construction worker outside and tries to help him by telling him to leave. The worker walks towards Liam trying to find out what he's saying, only to drop dead right away after a few steps. Suspecting that something terrifying has happened, Liam decides to experiment by walking close to a bird on the tree. To his fear, the animal drops dead right away after Liam walks close towards it. Liam realizes that it was him who killed all the people and tries his best to avoid anyone that comes close. He plans to hide in the shed and tape off the windows, but the police arrives looking for him, causing him to run. The officer nearly gets killed by Liam when she moves too close, but luckily, the birds are killed in front of her, causing her to retreat right away. At night, Liam hears a woman knocking on his house. She notices him and approaches the shed. Trying not to kill any more people, Liam screams for her to go away, but before he knows it, she's right outside the door, surprisingly still alive. Apparently, the woman was in the truck with Liam when the accident happened, but she lost her memories just like the main character. Still in shock about how the woman is immune to his powers, he sees a dog walk beside him without suffering any harm as well. They decide to go to the crash site to look for clues about what happened, and the woman tells him to call her Jane since she doesn't remember her own name. They arrive at the site and ventures in the bushes only to find a large circle burned to the ground. Liam thinks this is not caused by fire as he inspects the tree branch on the floor which appears to be unburned. He has a sudden flashback where he sees Jane present here that night, then himself struck by lightning. He asks Jane where she was standing on that night, and it appears that they both stood on the outer edges of the circle, which approximates the radius to Liam's power. He tells the theory to Jane and admits that he was responsible for the people who got killed. He thinks whatever happened may have affected them both. Liam assures her that whatever happened to him is gone, and he doesn't seem to be killing anyone anymore. Jane freaks out and runs away from Liam towards the street while he chases after her. She's mad that Liam didn't tell her from before, as he could have killed her at any moment. A car drives by with a woman inside who wants to make sure if everyone is alright. Jane walks away from them in anger while the woman shows that she's actually the police officer at the house the other day. Before she can arrest Liam, she falls to her death once again. Jane looks back and sees the dead woman, which freaks her out even more, causing her to run in fear. Liam chases after her and promises her that she will not die like the others, but they have to get out of there right now. They try to use a sheep to experiment on Liam's power by telling Jane to slowly walk away. The animal dies as expected after she exits the radius. Liam wants to go to the hospital to figure out what is going on, but Jane tells him that no one will believe what he says, plus she already had a scan which showed no abnormality. They agree that they will only tell the doctor that Liam has lost his memory in order to get a CT scan on the brain. They manage to get the CT scan done, but the police soon arrive at the hospital looking for Liam after the police officer died trying to arrest him. Liam pushes the doctor for the results, but he says that everything looked normal. They get spotted by the police and runs for the elevator. Jane gets distracted by a missing persons poster, remembering that she used to have them as well. Before she realizes, Liam gets locked in the elevator with other patients while Jane rushes downstairs chasing the elevator. Luckily, they make it out of the hospital together, relieved that no one was killed. They're forced to spend the night in the car as they have nowhere else to go. Liam sees more images of Jane in his dreams, recalling previous memories. Jane overhears her name and her husband's name on the radio and tries to convince Liam to meet up with her husband. Liam hesitates, not wanting to kill any more people, but Jane persuades him to go, saying that she needs his support. They arrive at her house and sees her husband, Sam, who's very worried about her as she was missing for a very long time, although he's clearly not very happy seeing another man in the car with his wife. They try to explain what happened to Sam while Liam shows him his power by killing the birds, which makes him realize the severity of the situation. Sam puts them in his shop temporarily and gets rid of Liam's car as to not raise suspicion. Liam finds a poster that looks like Jane, which says that she's been missing for over a year now, but under the picture writes a name that is not hers. Sam explains that Jane has a twin sister who went missing and was never found. Jane tried obsessively to find her, but with no results. This prompted Jane to remember that at the night of the incident, she was going to commit suicide on the bridge, but Liam stopped her and saved her life. She tells Liam about her new memories and stating that they didn't know each other beforehand. Liam also remembers while looking at the pictures on the calendar that they were driving up north to a lake house that he owns just prior to the accident. Their relationship grows closer, but this puts Sam in an awkward situation as he sees his wife sleeping on another man's lap. On top of that, the wife doesn't remember a thing about her husband and seems to always be on Liam's side, which makes him go even crazier. Personally, if I was Liam, I would probably get out of there before he murders me in my sleep. Things get even worse when Liam decides to go to the lake house with Jane while the wife tells her husband to stay put like a good boy in the shop. This results in Sam calling the police on them. He tries to get Jane to leave with him, but she obviously doesn't believe her husband. The officers put Sam in the police car against his will while they arrest both Liam and Jane, putting them on the floor. Although Sam told the police to arrest them together, the officers proceed to separate them at their protest and eventually results in everyone around Liam dying immediately. Liam tries to save the last officer, but he rushes forward, killing himself. They get Sam out of the car, and the husband finally realizes that he made a big mistake. He tells them to leave while he stays and tries to exonerate both of them to the local police. Liam feels personally responsible for all the people who died back there, while Jane tries to convince him that it's not his fault. The two stops in the gas station for supplies and sees on the news that the lightning strike which hit them apparently came from outer space, which adds more mystery to what really happened. As they drive off to their location, a car quietly follows them from behind. They finally arrive at the cabin up north, and Liam decides to go on the lake to help him remember his past memories while Jane stays behind. While looking around, Jane finds a burnt notebook in the fireplace and proceeds to look inside. She finds a collection of missing posters, all young women from this town, with the last one being her twin sister. They both begin remembering what actually happened that night. Liam is actually a serial killer who dumped her sister's body in the lake. He tried to drug Jane as well, but she resisted, causing them to crash into the ditch beside the road. Both of them makes out of the car, and just when Liam decides to go after Jane, a lightning strikes between them, causing a huge force field to appear which gave them their abilities but also caused them to lose their memories. Jane brings a rifle and points at her sister's killer. She tells Liam to kneel down, but finds herself unable to pull the trigger at the man who she had feelings for just moments ago. She demands to know where her sister is, to which Liam points to the lake with guilt. She screams at Liam, telling him to walk towards the lake while she shoots him, but the main character finds it hard to kill himself. You can tell that Liam also feels terrible, but helpless at the realization of what his previous self did. Without other choice, Jane takes him back to the cabin, but they're surrounded by a group of men who seeks revenge from Liam for killing their loved ones. He runs away from the group, trying to kill them to save Jane, but she shouts for him to stop. Liam backs away slowly, causing two of them to die immediately. Jane runs at this opportunity, but gets shot by the third man. Liam runs towards the shooter and kills him as well. He rushes to Jane only to see her suffering with the gun wound, and quickly decides to bring her to the hospital. As the doctors take Jane to the emergency room, Liam watches her from afar, knowing that he can't be with her anymore. He decides to take his own life to save everyone else from dying. Jane cries as she hears the gunshot from a distance. So what do you guys think about this movie? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like my video, please press like and subscribe for more. I'll see you guys next time.